Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I think we're ready to start here. Where's Leah? Oh, there she is.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
We're back.
We're back. It was a bit of a ordeal getting our microphone fixed, but a little bit of back and forth, and here we are.
Yeah. If you remember last time, we had our microphone issue, and so instead we showed you the vlog of Oktoberfest. I hope you had a good time listening or watching that one.
Yes.
But now we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. It is, at the filming of this, October 26th.
Saturday night instead of
very-
middle of the day Sunday.
Getting very close to Halloween. So we have our costumes on.
I'm Dan Aykroyd playing the role in Ghostbusters.
And I'm a spooky ghost. If you
A
couldn't guess that.
Ghostbuster and a ghost.
We're very,
From our very clever intro.
yeah. Context on these costumes. We had a party last weekend where we dressed up as like our actual Halloween costumes. But then today our favorite ice cream shop was having buy one, get one free if you dressed up. And so we bought something really quick on our way to the ice cream shop and bought these just to get that free ice cream.
Did what we spent on the costumes exceed what we saved on the ice cream?
You know,
We may never know.
let's not worry about
One of
that.
great life's mysteries. Life's great mysteries.
But it works for here. So we're excited to be back. Today we're going to be talking about California.
Ooh, the spooky state of California.
One of our favorite states. If you've been listening for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
we have told you a little bit about our personal stories in California, but we'll dig into that more on this episode.
Yes.
So let's get into it.
Yes. And since it is Saturday night, we thought we would have some cocktails while we told our stories this time instead of sody pops.
Ooh, spooky. And we have our glassware. Mine is a
Yes.
ghost. Joe's a pumpkin.
Mine's a pumpkin containing a drink that, check out the Hawaiian vlog that we posted because it's my new favorite drink. They figured, or I was introduced to it at Spago's.
London fog?
I think it's a rolling fog.
Rolling fog. I
It's-
think London fog is a type of like
I don't know if it
tea.
came from Japan or if it was like Japanese in theme, but I think it's from Mount Fuji fog because it uses a Japanese whiskey.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And mine is,
I
you know
don't
what?
remember the name.
I don't remember the name either, but I did have it also in Hawaii. So,
We just learned there, and now we're doing this.
yeah.
So we continue.
Cheers,
Cheers, my dude.
my dude.
Now join us
Let's
for
do it.
spooky stories.
Yeah.
I only
Okay.
have, well, I have 1.5. So how do we want to structure this one?
I have 2.5.
All right.
I don't
so
know if
I'll
you-
tell you, if you're howling, our dog is apparently howling.
That's.
So
I don't think you can hear it on the microphone. But Kona got a new toy today. Thank you to my tias who came over this morning and gave them new toys. They absolutely love them.
Mm-hmm.
And Kona is in the other room crying right now because we're not playing with her and those new toys. Maybe they'll stop by if she stops crying later. Under the table, which you can't see, is Bisbee. She's taking a quick nap.
does
But
that make us bad people that we're recording a podcast instead of playing with our dog?
we've been playing with her all evening, so I
That's
think
true.
she's okay.
Very true.
But she is demanding.
Yeah. That is just her nature.
Okay,
right.
since I
Okay.
have more than you, should I go first?
I'll go my half one first.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
it's a bit of a tale, a bit of
Ooh,
a spooky tale. It's
I'm
hard
ready.
to know exactly where the truth lies with this one, unlike our other stories.
Let's hear it.
All right. So it's a story of a haunted house in LA.
Okay.
Said to be a lot of ghosts there. Many ghosts. Upwards of 1,000 ghosts.
Okay.
Okay. And it's hard to tell where the ghosts come from. So some say that there is like a spirit there that's trying to.
Wait, does this house have a name? Where in
No,
LA
that's the problem.
is
It's like
it?
hard to pinpoint. Like
Interesting.
the story is hard to pinpoint.
It's just a house in LA with 1,000 ghosts.
Yeah, I might be exaggerating, but it has a lot of ghosts, right? So
Yeah.
some say that there's a spirit there that's trying to accumulate power So he kind of like sucks the energy when he gets in there.
Oh, jeez.
People have said to die in the house from this ghost, and he absorbs her power, adds it to him, something like that. Also, it's also said that there might be a ghost there that's trying to fulfill some sort of like lost love kind of a situation. I hope people can hear this.
I'm sorry. We're going to do a quick pause and get the girl to come over here because she is just screaming in the other room. And we're back.
And we're back. Maybe you can see Kona, maybe you can't.
She's here now.
Yes.
She's happier.
Yes.
Okay, please continue.
Okay.
There are 1,000 ghosts
1,000
in
ghosts.
this vague house.
Yes. Like I said, one theory is that there's some sort of ghost that's causing people to die there and taking their energy. Others say that there's some sort of bad history with it and some sort of like lost love, like he's trying to find his lost wife, something like that. But oftentimes there's ghosts swinging on chandeliers and there's a big hall with lots
Wait, stop it. Okay.
I'm not very good at keeping a straight face.
I am the foolish mortal in this situation.
Sometimes it's called a haunted mansion, so I don't really know.
Good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. If you're not a Disney adult and you have no
Which
idea
we're
what we're
not.
talking
Which we're
about,
not.
yeah. That was a reference to one of my favorite rides in Disneyland, the Haunted Mansion. Good one. You had me.
Thanks.
I was
led with the new Haunted Mansion movie
Yeah.
and then went to the Eddie Murphy version.
I was like, wait, ghost on a chandelier. Good one. I
Thanks.
like it.
I need to
like
get better
it.
about keeping a straight face.
You had me.
Thank you. I just wanted to be like, oh, it's just some just say it's just like a haunted mansion. But then I think that would trigger it too quick. So
That's good. You did a good job.
thank you. All right, we'll let you go because I only really have one like location.
Okay.
Yep.
I have two locations. One, which you may have heard of before. I'm going to swoop in here with the laptop where my notes are because my iPad is dead. So this is what we're going with.
Amateurs.
I was very prepared for this podcast. Okay. My first one is going to be somewhere we've been before.
Okay.
It is going to be the Whaley House.
Is that the San Diego house?
Yes.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Yes. Super famous, super haunted. Awful stuff happened there. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. The Whaley House was built in 1853
Okay.
for $10,000.
Big money back then.
Yeah. Thomas Whaley was the owner. He lived in the house with his wife Anna. Together, they had 6 children.
Okay.
Thomas also owned the general store for the town at the time, San Diego. I think, if I recall, like when we visited there, I think the general store was like actually a part of the house.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
I honestly, it was like years ago, and my memory's terrible.
So to like
I don't-
lay out what the house looks like now, you can go and tour it. That's what we did when we were in San Diego. It's got a ton of bedrooms. It's 2 stories, but within the house, they've also like done some conversions. So there is like a general store in there now.
Yeah, I remember them setting up like stuff was pretend for sale.
Yeah, pretend for sale. There's also like a courthouse that's in there. I think that's also a conversion. And then additionally, there's like a theater, like a live play theater, where that's also a conversion on the 2nd floor.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like a whole stage upstairs. Okay.
So I don't know. I think when we're talking about him owning the general store, I think it was the general store that was like attached to his house.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that burned down. Fire, kind
Oh,
of like a theme. It burned down in a devastating fire, and so he lost a lot of income, and that's kind of when this bad stuff started happening to Thomas and his family. So unfortunately, Thomas and his family had 6 deaths while living in this house.
Oh, okay.
So
That's tragic and a ton.
I know. That's why it's super haunted. Thomas died himself in 1890 of natural causes. He was actually in downtown San Diego when he passed away, so he didn't pass away in the house, but he passed while he was living there.
Okay.
Anna, his wife, passed in 1913 while she was in the house, and she did pass away, like actually in the house.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Thomas Whaley Jr., their son, died in 1856 at 18 months old of scarlet fever in the house. And then, this just gets so awful. Violet, their daughter, committed suicide 1885 at 22 years old after finding out her husband was a con artist.
Oh, why? Okay. I mean, that's terrible. I'm not.
Yeah.
But like, why do like most stories from like the mid 1850s or like 1800s always have a con artist? Like, why is there always a con artist involved?
That was like their thing back then.
Like, just like a common, just like one day someone's like, I'm going to become a doctor today. Time to start practicing medicine. Or like,
It's true.
yeah, like it's always, or like, oh, I think I'm going to start doing seances,
Yeah.
actually.
That's a good point.
I don't know why.
People just could get away with
I don't
stuff
think-
back then, I guess.
I think you could. You just be like, today my life changes for the better. Time to start saving lives.
Yeah. Anyways, poor Violet. She shot herself in the chest
Okay.
outside of the
Oh.
house. She was found alive, and then they dragged her into that
Oh.
house, and that is where she died. Was in that guest bedroom.
Okay.
The rest of the family, the remaining members, continued to live in the house until they died. With the last one being Corrine in 1953.
Okay.
So super tragic.
Yeah.
A lot of deaths of children, of suicides, etc. So I can see why this place is haunted. But interestingly enough, it's actually said that the house was haunted like when they built it.
Re-haunted.
Yeah.
Like the materials, like the bricks were haunted.
Yeah, when they were living there, it was haunted.
Oh, so like while they were there. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, like while they were living there. But they built it. So I guess, anyways, here's the story.
Okay.
So while they were living there, it was said to be haunted by Yankee Jim Robinson, who was hanged on the property for stealing a boat.
Oh, okay.
So Yankee Jim, so at the time, people like weren't that tall back then. They were like, men were like around 5'3" to 5'5", but Yankee Jim was 6'4".
Dang, he big.
Yeah. And so when they went to hang him, they did a little mismeasuring.
They're not used to it. They're like, we don't have a rope that could possibly.
So so they like measured incorrectly.
So it's pretty wild. It's like, stole a boat. Like, that's the death penalty. Sorry.
It's true. But instead of like cracking, his neck when
Yeah.
they hang him, they just like strangled him for 45 minutes
Jeez, just
until he died.
put him out of his misery. What are you doing?
What? Were they all just like watching there for like 45 minutes
It's not like he did anything terrible.
while
He
he's
stole
like
a boat.
kind of standing on the ground?
Yeah, let's let him struggle and die slowly and painfully.
How horrific.
My rowboat it's never been the same. What?
Anyways, yeah, his toes were like apparently barely touching the ground, and he
Okay.
could like
Sort of hold him. Oh,
for 45 minutes. Anyways, it said that the Whaley house or the Whaley family heard his footsteps throughout the house. And today, people see Yankee Jim in
Okay.
the house, still in the master bedroom, and they also feel pressure on their neck and chest when going upstairs.
okay. Yeah.
The strangling. So that was kind of interesting that it was like pre-haunted
Yeah.
by poor Jim. But also, like I mentioned, the family themselves are said to haunt the residents. Thomas is known because you can smell his cigars that he would smell in the house. People now visiting will go and they'll smell it in certain rooms, so that's how they know that it's him. Same thing for Anna. They can smell her lavender perfume throughout the house, especially in the theater that I mentioned, which at the time I think was a bedroom, but now it's a theater. Oh, at the time it was a parlor. Now it's a theater. But that is the room that she passed away in. So
Okay.
that's where they smell the lavender smell.
I'll stop you real quick.
Yeah.
And we can cut this out if we need to. But the second you said smell the cigar smoke, Bisbee farted. I smelled dog fart like the second.
Okay.
There you go.
And we're
Sorry
cutting
about
that.
All right.
Gross. Thank you, Bisbee.
And we're back.
Speaking of haunting smells, it is said that there is a ghost dog on the property.
Oh,
Which is-
well, that's kind of cool.
Dolly,
That's
their
positive,
dog.
at least, sort of.
Yeah, it says that it'll lick the legs of visitors. And then Violet, like I mentioned earlier, is said to haunt the guest room in which she passed.
Okay.
So in addition to like the smells and the licking of this haunted house,
It's basically our house.
yeah,
Smells and lickings from the dogs.
there's said to be a lot of activity reported upstairs. Classic things like curtains in many rooms moving by themselves. When the windows are closed, like there isn't a breeze, they're just kind of moving
Okay.
there. The beds and the pillows have shown impressions of like
Oh.
someone sitting there or someone laying there. Even though visitors, like if you go there, it's like plexiglassed off, so you can't get in there.
Okay.
But it still shows that like there's an imprint in the bed where someone was sitting. And also there's a rocking chair in one of the rooms that is said to be seen rocking on its own.
Okay. Creepy. Very
So
creepy.
a lot of activity. When we were there, we took a lot of pictures. We'll insert some here. Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh, I love this one.
Well, we took so many pictures because we were trying to capture some of this stuff. Unfortunately, we didn't capture anything, but it was still a really fun tour.
Yeah, it was very cool. As you were describing it, a lot of things were coming back. I was like, oh, I remember that now. Oh, I remember that now. But like, I remember like, if you asked me to describe anything about this place before you told that, I would like,
It's like a brand
it
new
was in
story.
San Diego.
Yeah, I really like it. I think in one of the episodes we mentioned the Ghoul Boys
Yes.
from Watcher Entertainment. They did a great episode with BuzzFeed Unsolved with that house, which has kind of inspired us to go see it. So
The real
check
question,
that out.
and this is, I mean, I feel like it's going to answer itself, but has Zach Baggins been there?
Oh my gosh, I bet.
Oh,
I'm
he'd have
sure
to.
for sure.
At least once. At least once.
We'll watch that episode.
Yeah, we'll watch that episode after this. You watch it with us. Watch along from remote.
Yeah.
And also
Now it's going to
uncommunicated.
start our 30-minute session where we watch Zach Baggins together.
You watch us watch off screen. That
Okay, that was my first one.
was a good one.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay. Let me get my notes.
Okay.
Provide me 1 second.
Okay. Oh,
Very good. Very good set design and sound design.
yep.
Also, I hope everyone likes the new set.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a big.
hey, we're in a
Welcome to
new
the new
location.
set.
Instead of taking over Joe's office, we
Yes.
have our, I don't know what this room is, but it's a room in our house that's quite large. And so we set it up as our set. It's probably
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
still going to change. But this was kind of our first go at it
Yeah.
using the furniture that we had.
But I think it turns out really well. It's a lot better than the first one.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with the first one, but I think this one's cool, especially it was more intentional.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, we're proud of it. Okay, getting to my story.
Yes. Let's hear it.
Okay, so my story, because I knew yours would be pretty like pure ghost heavy, because we've been there, we've done like ghost tours there.
Yeah.
You've had your own experiences there. That's to keep you guys on your toes. Ooh. So I went with a little more shocker historical.
Okay.
There's ghosts, but it's more historical.
Okay.
So I did Angel Island off the coast of San Francisco. It's in the bay.
Okay.
So like Alcatraz, and there's Angel Island.
yes.
Yeah.
I remember this.
And I believe nowadays it's mostly like a state park. And I think there's, buildings on there and stuff. But so it's in the San Francisco Bay, and it was originally known as the Ellis Island of the West. It is home to it's now closed, but the Angel Island Immigration Station. So that's what it's famous for. Before it was actually built up as an immigration station, it was used for a quarantine station for immigrants coming to the U.S. And they would like put people there if they thought they were sick, or they would test them there and just make sure they're basically weren't bringing like smallpox or whatever the people didn't know back then. So
Okay.
whatever they could be bringing. And one of the first boats that got quarantined there was immigrants from China. And before we go any further, I need you to be thinking to yourself, has Zach Baggins investigated this island?
Has he?
He has, actually. Now, it was actually hard to find this because
He
Yeah.
hides this one.
I like Googled it and I was like, oh, here's like he went to Devil Island. And I was like, okay, that's not Angel Island, is it? Like, they're not doing playing the name. And also it was its own special. Like, it wasn't even an episode in the season. It's its own like special.
Okay.
And later, I was like Googling, I was like, oh, they actually did there. And then they just called it Devil Island, which I like.
They just like renamed
It
it.
was renamed like this place with like kind of a very dark history.
And they're like,
We want to call it Devil Island.
That's gonna get more views.
Yeah.
So let's call it Devil Island.
Also, it's like, so it does pass the Zach Bagans test.
Excellent.
Also, just based on the kind of evidence that comes out from there, that's like a very dramatic name for this island.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like there's nothing that indicates that there's devils on this island. Just saying.
I don't know. There could be though. We never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
He probably got scratched or sick or
Or possessed.
dizzy or possessed.
I think he got possessed.
Somebody on that cast got possessed, I'm sure. We'll watch the episode, but like I'm calling in someone got possessed on that. Okay, anyway. So passed the Zach Bagans test. So it was originally constructed, the immigration station, to accept Chinese immigrants whose entry was restricted under the Chinese exclusion laws of 1882, which that's the actual name. So they weren't even hiding it back then. It was just the Chinese exclusion laws.
Sick. Okay, cool.
And then also they anticipated a big influx of people coming through, like from the East Coast, like from Europe through the Panama Canal, and then immigrating through San Francisco from like Europe or whatever. However, those people weren't able to because the Panama Canal was finished in like basically right before World War I started. So like nobody was coming, like immigrating through. So it just basically became like mostly Chinese immigrants who came into that port. And based on the name of the laws, you may be surprised to learn that they did not want Chinese immigrants.
No.
Oh, I know. So it was, to give you context, in Ellis Island, the boat would come in, people would come off, get screened for sickness. They were there about 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
And then they were like, processed into the U.S.
Yeah.
Here, people were interrogated heavily and kept for weeks to months.
Oh, we just got to be sure.
Triple, like, stacked barracks. So,
It's just an inspection, though, guys.
yes, just an inspection for health. It's not
for your safety.
for your safety and for those of your family. All right. So, yeah, a lot of racism around this immigration station versus where the white people came in from Europe.
Imagine that.
Yep. And one thing in particular they're trying to, interesting history fact, that they were trying to like stop was, I guess a lot of like the immigration records were lost in the earthquake of 1906 that like destroyed San Francisco.
Okay.
And so there was this thing going on where people would, Chinese immigrants would have paper children, basically like.
Oh, yes. I know this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like, so people like, back in China were like, would spend a lot of money, like the village would put together money to get like one person, like papers to come here basically to be a child. And so a lot of these, like when they would get there, they get really grilled on like very specific things that no one would ever know. Like one example I read online was, how many steps were in your back porch or like in a staircase in your house or something, which like, and if your answer didn't match like whatever your parents said, you get deported. But like, who would know that anyway?
insane.
So it's an insane thing. But anyway, okay. So people upon getting here, like I said, rigorous interrogations, basically be kept in like, what was it? Like a prison camp type environment or just like a prison camp. And moving to the ghosts, and I thought this was pretty creepy. So people said like, what was like the worst things or, people who were interviewed later on about their experiences at this place. They said the worst things about that was the starvation and the ghosts.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's a spooky kind of a
Statement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
My thought is, I don't know if it's like an allegorical ghost or if it's like real, like they mean like actual literal ghosts.
I mean, that sounds pretty specific.
It sounds specific to ghosts,
Like,
so it's very creepy.
I was super hungry and also haunted.
Haunted, very haunted. One of those ghosts was said to be that of a young Chinese bride that got here with her husband, and then they got split up. And then he got in to the U.S., and then she was set to be deported. So she went back to her room and unfortunately committed suicide and hung herself in the restroom. And it is said that people, like other Chinese immigrants at that point, wouldn't be able to go in that bathroom alone because they would just feel too oppressed. And like they felt her presence afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's said that one girl shortly thereafter woke up feeling like she couldn't breathe, she couldn't move, she couldn't scream, and like she had a presence on her chest. I mean, to me, that sounds, like a lot like sleep paralysis now, but.
Wow, way to just write that one off.
I'm just
Seems like she had a little bit of anxiety.
as a doctor. But people attributed that to this bride.
Mm-hmm.
But other 2-day like current visitors who go to this place, they'll hear disembodied voices. They'll hear screaming. They kind of like weird EMF, readings, electromagnetic situations going on. A lot of times when people visit today, they a lot of people report feeling the trauma and the weight of like the energy of the whole place, and they'll get really sick and they'll have to leave.
Ooh.
Or they'll get like really like down and then they'll have to leave. And it's said that a lot of times it sticks with them for hours after they get there. So it's not so much like specific ghost stories. It's more like
Like a feeling.
people experiencing that, like the trauma of the place today.
Ugh.
That sticks with you. So it's more of like an overall heaviness.
That does not
That
sound
is-
like a fun haunting.
No, not a spooky ghost story, but I think it's a little interesting bit of American history that I consider myself like a history nerd, and I had never heard of this place. So
What do you mean you've never heard of this place?
I never heard of this place.
What?
Yeah.
Haven't we watched like several videos?
No,
Okay, well, I was very familiar with it.
you were?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, what a waste.
Let us know in the comments. Were you familiar with this?
I don't know. You were just in San Francisco, so maybe you saw it there.
I was, but that's not a place that we're going on a work trip.
Yeah. You guys do like a little field
Want
trip.
to have this horrible feeling in your chest.
Do you want to hear
after you
screams?
leave. Yeah. Let's do that, and then
Yeah.
let's go serve the stakeholders.
Yes. All service to the shareholders.
We love you, shareholders.
Yes.
That's
All
a
right.
joke.
That's a joke. It's not a joke. All right. Well, that was my story.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Loved the mood on that one.
This is a ghost story show. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, no, I guess sometimes they are going to be depressing.
I leave at the haunted mansion, and then I go to depression.
You were in two wild extremes there, but that was very interesting and sad.
And on par for me.
So now that we're all depressed and we've had our history lesson, let's move on to something a little bit less intense.
All right.
You've heard of this one before. I've talked about it before. I reference it all the time.
think I know where this is going.
favorite spooky place on planet Earth, the Grey Ghost, aka Queen Mary.
Also, I'm going to plug the Haunting of the Queen Mary movie we watched. Is that what it's called?
The Haunting of the Queen Mary
Or
movie.
the Haunted,
Oh, yes.
which had literally nothing to do with like anything
Wait,
that
we
we
should
ever.
talk about this. So, okay, Queen Mary. I don't know if I've talked about it on Wed to this podcast before. Definitely talked about it on American Social Fabric before. But it's in Long Beach, and it's like my favorite place ever. But I was doing research for this podcast, and I found out that there's a movie that came out like 2022, like fairly recently. That's called the Haunting.
It's like the Haunting of the Queen
The
Mary or
Haunting
something
of the Queen
like
Mary.
that. Yeah.
It is a ride.
Yeah, I think it was ripping off like the name, I mean,
Yeah.
but like using a similar naming pattern to like, there's a lot of movies out there like a Haunting of whatever, like a Haunting of Hill House, a Haunting of. So I think it was going in that vein, but it was not the same budget. I would say.
No, but it was great. I
She loved it.
loved it.
Had nothing to do with anything that we've ever like heard about in relation to that boat,
It did. It had nothing to do with the Queen Mary,
Yes.
but it was filmed on the Queen Mary.
which was awesome.
And it was one of those movies where it's like you're in modern times and then you're like in the past and then you're like in the modern and you kind of like go back and forth until they converge. Highly recommend if you're in for a good thrill.
Schlocky.
Yeah.
Also, they did a lot of shots of the Starbucks on that. People drinking the Starbucks sign. They wanted you to know there's a Starbucks on that boat.
Yeah, right. Okay. Anyways, so aside from that, let's talk about what the Queen Mary actually is for our listeners. And if you've heard this
Oh, yeah.
before,
It's gonna
I'm
be
sorry, but we're going to get into it. Okay. Queen Mary. It was a cruise ship made by White Star Line, the same people that made the Titanic. So we'll insert some pictures here of us on that ship so you can see how it looked. Very Titanic-esque.
Very beautiful boat.
Beautiful. And it was used as a cruise ship for the rich.
Everybody, but only the rich got to enjoy it,
Yeah, that's fair.
as is life.
So after it was a cruise ship, and then World War II, right?
Yep.
Happened. So the cruise ship got turned into a military ship. They painted it gray. They renamed it the Gray Ghost, and they used it as a military transport ship because it was like so freaking fast.
Yep.
This thing was like wicked fast. And what did I say last time? Like it could make like New York to
Probably London.
yeah,
I guess.
and like record speed. And so that is when one of the major tragedies of this ship's history occurred, is when it has like a smaller boat guiding like this cruise ship, like during the military
Yeah,
times.
it was a
What do you call that?
destroyer. It was a guide.
Yeah.
It was a escort.
Escort. Thank
Yep.
you. But the Grey Ghost was traveling so fast, it collided with this smaller boat. And it like couldn't steer away from it because it was moving so fast, and it killed 338 soldiers of that smaller boat. And most of them were in the propeller. I know we've shown the propeller before, but that's just so crazy.
Yeah.
And when you go, obviously we've been to the ship, but when you go on the tour, you can see the propeller. Like you look down on it, it's very scary. So they couldn't turn around and pick back anyone, like see if anyone was okay or anything, because they were moving so fast. And so they just like let everyone die. It was wild. So of that, I do think that like,
I think another destroyer
Some-
came and picked up some of the people.
I was going to say some of them survived. I think like 99
out of
survived.
like the 400 or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. A large majority of them died, unfortunately. And then in addition to that, there are 49 recorded deaths on board the Queen Mary, just like in general.
49. Oh wow, that's a lot for like a cruise ship. Like you're like, in
why
theory,
it's
you're on a
spooky.
cruise. Like even back then, like right, you're traveling. Like it's like an airliner now.
Yeah.
So you're going what, like 7 days?
Yeah.
Like how many people are dying on like that's like a couple of
Well,
a
let
year.
me
Like,
let
how many
me
trips
tell
can
you.
do? Like, do
Let me
people
tell
stop
you
dying
about a
on this
few
thing?
of them, sir.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I'm flabbergasted.
So, one of the spookiest rooms is stateroom B340. This is when passenger Walter Adamson died, unfortunately. So he died in this room. There isn't like, I'm sure there's more information about like how he died, etc. But the spooky story comes in 1966 when a woman was staying there. Oh, you can like stay there now.
It's a hotel.
They after it was a military ship, they like retired it. They put it in Long Beach, and now it's a hotel, so you can stay there, which is awesome. But in 1966, a woman was staying there, and in the middle of the night, she woke up to her sheets being ripped off her bed, and a man standing at the foot of her bed, and then vanishing.
That's like the nightmare. That's the thing that everyone
Right?
thinks gonna like. When they're scared laying in bed, that's what they think's gonna happen.
And you think like, this lady sounds a little dramatic. She probably made this up.
She probably did.
So many people have reported that or a similar story. They had to close the stateroom to the public. They were like, this is
much.
too freaking haunted. People keep complaining. People keep calling us. People keep ditching in the middle of the night. Like, I don't know what's going on with this room, but people don't like it. And so we are closing it down, which is crazy. Too many spooky complaints.
Too many spirits.
Yeah. I think they did like recently open it back up.
I think you can like request it.
I
if
think
remember
yeah,
right.
I think like now you can request it because I know that like the spooky people who go and do investigations, they stay in that room.
Yeah.
But it's not just like a room that they book out anymore. They did like reopen it after closing, but that's wild that it was when we went there, we like looked and then it was too spooky to go in.
Felt a shiver up my spine.
Another spooky room is the Mayfair room. So the story with this room is in 2001, a member of the accounting staff came into work early and like she was just like feeling off. She like went about her job. She's like, oh, I don't feel so good today. But she was like, maybe I'm getting sick. Like I feel really cold. I feel really off. Like something is happening. Later that day, she felt someone brush up against the back of her chair, foreshadowing.
Foreshadow.
But no one was there.
Ooh, creepy.
Yes.
Especially creepy given what I know.
Just minutes after that, she saw a transparent figure walk across the room and then pass through the door.
Oh, classic haunt. Very good.
Good one. But remember that being someone brushing up behind you, but then no one being there.
We're being very subtle.
And then another one, which we have also been to the scene. I don't know if it's a crime, but the scene
Scene of the crime.
was hatch door number 13. So in addition to like it being a like hotel where you walk in the hallways and the corridors and the rooms and whatever, you can also like tour the inside of the ship. So you can go like below deck and see all the inner workings and all of where the people who like manned the ship worked and the conditions that they worked in and how intense like the plumbing is, I guess, of the ship.
Well, it's impressive when you could like tour those big ships.
It's cool.
The engines and the
Yeah.
pipes. And it's to think that was designed and like drawn and built and operated before computers is just mind boggling.
I know.
Like someone just like thought it out. And
Yeah.
it's just like,
We again have to do another episode like purely based on ships.
Yeah.
'Cause we go into all these ships, they're all kind of the same. They all smell identical.
Oh, yeah.
But
It's like
this
the
was
old ship smell.
Yeah, but this was one that we got to tour, and so we got to see this hatch door number 13. So this happened in the night of 1966. So there's doors that are used like in the inner workings of the ship to close it in case of a flood. Like in case something happens to the integrity of the ship, they have these like watertight doors that they seal, and so the whole thing like won't go down, or at least not that fast. So they have these watertight doors around the engine room, around the boiler room, like etc. And one night those doors were ordered to be shut. So like something was going on or routine, I don't know. They were ordered to be shut. So automatically all of these like watertight doors just like shut. About 5 minutes later, an 18-year-old crew member from Yorkshire was found crushed in hatch 13, which is one of these doors. He was trapped with his arms pinned to his side. Although they eventually were able to free him, he had like awful crush injuries. They took him to the hospital ward, but it was just too late. You know, he's like bleeding out of everywhere, and his arms and chest and pelvis are all crushed.
Yeah.
He was injected with morphine, but he died like, pretty shortly after that. So it said that
Which is, sorry.
Yeah.
It's terrible. In the movie, going back to the movie, like they have one of the, like they have like one of the maintenance people, spoiler, sorry. he gets like killed by steam, right? And they, and they put him on, like, why wouldn't you just use the real story? Like, why would you change something arguably worse? Not
because
the steam,
because
like,
they needed the dramatic mask of this guy and his like skin
that's a good
boiling
point.
off
The director
for the
was
dramatization.
like, I want the mask, I want the prosthetics. But like, arguably the door crushing thing. Like, anyway.
I know. Anyways,
Or maybe they didn't want to like show this person's.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we might have a picture. We have some pictures. We'll insert pictures either of the door, of the area. We have pictures. We'll insert them here.
Yeah.
So obviously that door is said to be haunted now after this tragic event. His ghost is regularly seen around the area. People report the sound of someone like running through these hallways in the engine room near the boiler room, running behind them and also whistling behind them. I love ghost whistles. So spooky. They've seen a figure with blue overalls and a beard that exactly resembles this guy.
Okay.
Seen this in the corner of their eye. They also saw an engineer would be like walking around the ship, like asking the guests, like you and I, if you have a wrench. And then they're like, no.
Why would I have a wrench?
and then
hotel.
and then he disappears.
Oh.
I love that idea of just like someone so plain.
Yeah, you just
like,
think they're
oh,
real.
they're like a crew member like working, but then
Yeah.
they like come up to you asking for a wrench, and you're like, actually, I don't have one of those, and then he just like disappears.
Yeah.
I love that. So spooky.
If I ever have a ghost encounter, I want it to be like that.
Where you think it's just a person.
I just think it's like a person. I'm just
Yeah.
like interacting with them.
Yeah.
One of those ones where it's like in a movie, it's like you're talking to somebody at a bar. Turns out they were never there.
Like The
You're
Shining.
by yourself. Yeah.
Kind of vibe where he's like surrounded by all these
Right.
people at the bar that they're not real.
Yep.
Anyways, so that there's so many other great stories about the Queen Mary. Those are just some. But this is where my personal ghost story comes in.
And me personally, we've been to like a lot of haunted locations, done a lot of haunted tours, that kind of stuff. She's never said she's had any other experience. So if you're like, oh, it's just because we were there doing the tour, that's never been an influence before.
No.
Like you're never like, there's some people on these tours, okay, they're a little wacky. They're very like trying to have it. They're like hunting. They're full on hunting for a ghost.
Yeah.
We go to just to listen and to enjoy. It's fun. We don't think we're going to see anything.
Yeah.
She's never, I don't want to say manufactured, but like been generous in trying to find a ghost or like been like, oh, I'm going to interpret this situation that way. So this for me is like the only time she's ever been like this, and
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Well, I mean, when we go on these ghost tours, I'm always like snapping pictures. I'm like, maybe I'll find something. Maybe I'll see something. Like, oh, where is it? But like, we never do.
Yeah.
And so we went on the ghost tour on the Queen Mary. It was fantastic. We saw everything. It was great. Took some pictures. We'll insert those here. But after the ghost tour was done, we were just like hanging out. Probably got a Starbucks.
Honestly, probably the stars. We were just checking out the ship.
Yeah, just like walking around, like hanging out.
Yeah.
And the hallways are, what a ship hallway would look like. It's like really long and pretty narrow. It's got a lot of rooms.
Yeah, super long, narrow, and then kind of arced
Yeah.
with like the bend of the ship.
Right. Yeah. So I think we were trying to look for a spooky room, or I don't know. We were just wandering around. It's a giant place. It's fun to just wander.
Yeah.
But we were just like, and it's busy. People are staying there. You know,
it's an active hotel.
Yeah, like people are staying there. There's crew members. They're having ghost tours. People are eating lunch. Like there's people. So we were just walking down the hallway. We were just talking, like doing whatever. And then I just feel behind me like someone is trying to get past us because it's so narrow. We were walking side by side.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, sorry. I'm just like blocking like a crew member who's, I don't know, carrying a tray of like room service or something. Like I need to get out of their way. And so I was just like walking whatever. And then I felt this, how you can kind of feel when someone's like behind you and trying to move along. Like I'm trying to get past you feeling. You're like, oh, sorry kind of thing.
Yeah. Your like senses are telling you, hey, there's somebody behind you.
Yeah.
You like, I don't know if you heard them or you saw them, but
Or,
like, they're there.
Yeah. You feel that they're like kind of close by. And so that's what I felt. And we were walking and I was like, oh, someone is like, trying to scoot past me or whatever. And so I turn over.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said like, oh, sorry.
Something like that.
Or I said something like, oh, sorry, or like, excuse me, or something like that. And then I like look over to let this person pass. And there was no one there.
Yeah. It was like, and again, you've never done anything like this before. It was just like, it was completely nonchalant. Like, oh, excuse me.
It was not
you like physically moved out of the way.
I know. I physically moved out of the way. And then when someone wasn't there, I freaked out. I was like, whoa, what the heck? But it didn't feel like, ooh, there's a spooky ghost, or oh, the hallway got cold, or
and we
it
weren't
got
talking
dark.
about ghosts.
We weren't talking about. We were just probably getting a Starbucks.
Yeah, we were just wandering down the hallway, like being like, oh, this is a nice ship, because it's like like I don't know, like Gilded Age. Is that what's the term I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Like the old classic,
Yeah,
Titanic style, and it was just like, oh, this is really pretty,
Yeah.
It was nothing like, oh, ghosts. So like, there's no reason. It wasn't like prime.
And it didn't feel, like I said, it didn't feel like a ghost. It felt like a person, like a worker
Yeah.
was behind me, like hustling, trying to get to wherever he or she was going. And so I was like, oh, excuse me. It was crazy. Talk about like having an encounter where you feel like it's a real person and not like a ghost. That's literally what it was. And that I think is why it's so freaky to me. And we're talking the middle of the day.
Yeah, it wasn't like night, like creepy. It was just
it
like,
wasn't creepy at all.
Yeah.
But I was so certain that someone was behind me. I like could feel their presence over my right shoulder. And you were on my left.
Yep.
And so I moved and I said, excuse me. And I turned to let them pass. It freaked me out.
yeah. I remember you were very startled because it's not like you were scared and like looking for a reason to be scared. You were like completely normal and then very strange situation. And then you were just like, well, what in the world?
It was
Like, what-
and I've never had that feeling before, like ever.
or
And I've never been spooked or seen ghosts or
Yeah.
felt their presence or anything. This was just like so out of the blue, but such a strong feeling
Yep.
of someone being there. Just like this accounting staff was mentioning in the story in the Mayfair room where she felt someone like brush
Yep.
past her shoulder. It was like the same thing.
Mhm.
Wild.
Very crazy.
And it still freaks me out to this day. I know it like sounds stupid, like, oh, someone was behind you, but they weren't. But I swear to God, it's like so scary. And it's like, I think I might have like one other like feeling related ghost story that we'll tell. It's actually Zach Baggins related.
Oh, is this at the museum?
Dude, don't like spoil it for
I
everyone.
don't even know what you're talking about, to be honest. So,
But like other than that, I've never had anything that comes even close to an encounter like this. But I wish, you know what I mean? I'd
Yeah.
love to like see a ghost or something. But it's just, it wasn't going to happen. But that one, I genuinely could not explain
yeah,
what happened.
it's a good story.
Yeah. Anyways, that was my one big ghost story. So hope you enjoyed it. But definitely, we're thinking of staying at the Queen Mary.
If we do, we'll definitely do a vlog.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
absolutely. Yeah.
Also, a bucket list item is actually going to Queen Mary 2, which is an active like cruise liner that goes between like New York and European capitals like Hamburg and London and stuff. But I think that'd be a very cool experience to get kind of like a modern day Queen Mary experience. I know you can, but
Or we could stay at the one that's docked and doesn't move,
or
and there's no seasickness happening on the real Queen Mary.
I was going to sail over there and then we can meet and do Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll fly back. But
Okay.
Yep.
So stay tuned for that
for
trip.
solo.
But yeah, thanks guys. That
Yeah.
we've been to other haunted places in California.
Yep.
Maybe we'll do a second episode if you guys are interested, because we talked about the haunted tour that we went on in San Diego. So let us know. But these are just the two, for me, the two California ones that I absolutely needed to highlight because I had such a great time.
Yes. And assuming we have any viewers, I think it'd be really fun as we go along. If you have any like of your own ghost stories, put them in the comments and say what state you're from
Yeah.
so that we can include them as we go through each state. I think that'd be very cool.
Yeah, we'd love to have guests. I know we've talked about this, but now
Yeah.
we have the space for it.
Yeah, now we have the space, we have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
We do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope that everyone has a very spooky Halloween.
Yeah. Have a good time. Hand out lots of candy or get lots of candy.
Both.
Yeah. Enjoy your Halloween parties, enjoy trunk or treats,
Yeah.
and enjoy the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yep.
Stay spooky.
All right, everybody.